Now would you look at that?
Yes, Corporal? How can I help?
Well, there's something I've been meaning to ask you. How did you become an assassin?
Why do you want to know?
Because I want to know my allies.
Huh. I see. In short, my mother sold me. And after an incident, my owner noticed my talents. He started to train me to carry out jobs for him. And when I was 17, he had an accident. I've been an independent assassin ever since.
Your mother sold you? But where? Why?
Because she needed the coin, and already had 4 children to feed. And as for your first question, where there is demand, there is a market, particularly in a big city like Greyfell. It's not as uncommon as you might believe.
You're saying there's a slave market in Greyfell?
Slaves, sex, murdering for pleasure. Just imagine every dark desire you can think of, and you know what the Greyfell Bazaar has to offer. I find it interesting that this surprises you. Didn't you serve in the Royal Army for 8 years?
I only joined shortly before the Major War started, and the Greyfell affairs were the responsibility of the Greyfell Guard. I just didn't know.
Well, now you do. I do not agree with the purity of light in most aspects, but they are right when they say there are many sinners in this world. If you believe in the concept of sin, that is.
Even if she needed the money, that's despicable.
Well, to her credit, she didn't take it lightly. At least as far as I can remember. I was only 7 when that happened.
That doesn't make it better. How do you feel about this? Your mother selling you off?
Well, I used to feel strongly about it. Now I've simply accepted it as part of my past. But there are plenty of reasons for that.
That's quite the story.
Is it?
So, who is this man who bought you?
I won't talk about that. This chapter of my past is done, and I want it to stay buried.
I understand.
I'm glad you do. So, tell me, Pariah, how did you become the betrayer's child in the first place? It's rare for a child to defy their own father.
He lost his vision. When he started the rebellion, it was about the safety of mages, but he became more and more radical. I just couldn't stand by and watch anymore.
That's admirable. Well, thank you for sharing this with me. Either way, is there anything else you need?
Interesting. Well, there's some...
Why do you want to know?
Got it. Let's see.
Corporal? Need anything?
Tell me a bit about your time on the road. What was it like?
Is that a command, Corporal?
Please?
All right, but I'm afraid there isn't so much to tell. Have you ever been on the road by yourself?
A long time ago, yes.
Well, then you know how wearisome it can get. Sleeping under the stars sounds romantic at first, until you realize that most of the time it's sleeping in the mud in drizzle. Most of the time, your stomach and your purse are empty, and your feet are full of blisters. And, of course, there's the constant danger. Especially if you're traveling on your own.
Did you ever have a companion?
Some, yeah, but most of it was just temporary. Though there was one I traveled with for longer. Quentin.
How did you meet?
Coincidence. A small town between Finn and Mir and Lar. We played dice together and he cheated. When I called him out on it, he tried to turn tail. But one of the other guests stopped him for me. They wanted to go give him a beating, but I told them to stop. He gave me back my money and we started talking. And, believe it or not, we found that we got along quite well.
So you started traveling together? With a thief?
I wouldn't call him that. He was just young and careless. We ended up traveling for almost a year.
I see. What was your relationship?
You mean... No, we were just friends. He was way too young for my liking, and I think I was too old for him. We were more like sister and brother.
What was his story? Where was he headed?
Into the blue, same as me. He had quite an interesting task, but I wouldn't feel comfortable sharing it with you, to be honest. He wouldn't want that.
Huh. So, how did you split up? What happened?
Nothing dramatic. We came by a village and decided to rest there for a while. The roads had become quite dangerous due to the mage wars, and we didn't want to go out unprepared. I did some healing for the villagers, and he helped out the local smith. He liked it, and the smith wanted him as an apprentice, so he stayed. I was surprised and a bit hurt at first, but then I realized it was probably for the better. I still think of him sometimes, though.
Huh. And how did you make a living?
That was the easiest part. I healed people.
With light magic?
Yes and no. It was my magic that mended the wounds, but since mages are often met with suspicion, how shall I say, got a little creative. Frankly put, whenever I treated someone, I gave him a magical potion to drink, which was just water mixed with some harmless herb to give it color. The rest was laying on hands to help the potion's effect, which was pure light magic and how I did the actual healing.
And that worked?
Better than you'd think. People were fighting over my panacea as if I was Ellen incarnate, while cursing the evil defilers who had caused this war. Ironic, isn't it?
Do you miss it sometimes? The vagabond life?
Well, we're still vagabonds somehow, aren't we? But I know what you mean. And yeah, I sometimes do. The wind on my skin, the vastness of the wildlands, and the fact that all you have to think about is the mile ahead of you. It's another world. There was this one night I'll never forget. I had made a camp at a clearing, set up campfire, and I was leaning against a tree, slowly drifting toward sleep. Then, all of a sudden, it started to rain. Not just the usual drizzle, it was bucketing down, drowning everything, the earth, the noise, the plants around me. My first impulse was to jump up, to find shelter, get my things into the dry. But I didn't. Instead, I saw. I don't know how else to put it. All of a sudden, there was this deep sense of peace. As if all my life I had been chasing something without knowing it myself. And in that moment had found it. So I just watched. I sat there and I watched. That feeling lasted until the sun came up. And then I fell asleep. When I woke up, it was gone.
That sounds beautiful.
And a bit traumatic. But yeah, it was beautiful. I've never felt something like that again.
And what do you make of it now?
Truth be told, I don't know. But it changed something. Even though I cannot say what it is.
Tell me a bit about your time on the road.
Is that a command, Corporal?
What do we need? Interesting. How are you holding up?
Fine, I guess. You know, Corporal, I've been meaning to ask you something.
Yes?
Well, not knowing your mother and all that shit your father put you through. Do you ever feel lost?
Why do you want to know?
Oh, I'm just wondering, I guess. So, what's your answer?
Yes, I do.
I figured. You know, I haven't told you that yet, but actually our pasts aren't so different. Save for the fact that my father didn't try to conquer the world, at least not that I know.
How are our pasts alike then?
Simply put, I also didn't know my mother. And my father was a bastard if there ever was one.
What happened to your mother?
She died giving birth to me.
I'm sorry.
It's alright. As I said, I never knew her.
I take it you and your father aren't on good terms then?
You are of great wisdom, Tahar. No, we were not. I was and still am the only heir of the family, and if there's anything my father ever cared about, it was prestige. You see, it might not be obvious, but I'm actually of noble blood. Pure blood, as Finn and Mir elves call it. Nothing impressive, small nobility. You know, similar to the kind of Nortander nobility that's always around at royal festivities, licking everyone's boots so that they just don't forget about them.
There's nobility in Finn and Mir?
Oh, yes, there is. They don't call it that, but essentially Finn and Mir is an aristocracy.
How so?
Well, as you might know, elven culture heavily revolves around the White Tree, a gift from their goddess Ellen. Simply put, the tree is revered and guarded by a group of mages, of seers, called the Council. They're the rulers of our country, 6 women and 6 men. Now, according to the ancient lore, when a seer dies, his or her successor is chosen by the Council. However, it has become custom that a seer should be replaced by someone from his bloodline. Someone pure, as they call it.
Which means they make sure that the power stays within the right families.
Indeed. And even though elven families in themselves are small, if you count all the cousins, aunts, and uncles, the members of just one council family could populate a whole township. In other words, the closer your blood ties with the council, the closer you are to the White Tree. And thus, the higher your standing.
So I assume your father put you under a lot of pressure.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. I barely had a childhood. It was all stern-faced teachers instead, trying to feed me language, history, math, and magic from the day I could speak. And I can't even remember all those festivities and religious ceremonies I had to attend. It was as if I learned the meaning of the word small talk before I learned how to ask for my mother's teat. Not that she would have been around to listen.
How about friends?
Oh, that's another topic. I was allowed to go out and play as long as it was with the right people. Still, I didn't, which was my choice, really. One of the few I made in those years. I preferred to stay on my own.
How come?
I don't know. See, I've always felt a bit ahead of others. As you know, we think in other dimensions than you do. Our lives are a lot longer. What that means is that an elf who has seen 20 winters is still considered and looks like a child. Thus behaves as such. I just never felt at home with most people. Especially around my age. And that feeling never changed.
What was your father hoping to gain from this?
Isn't it obvious? He wanted to marry me off, and thus expand our petty little family's prestige.
If he simply wanted to arrange a marriage for you, then why teach you magic, maths? When these things happen in Nortander, it's usually more about, how shall I put it?
The looks?
And the ancestry, yes.
Well, these things play a big role in Finn and Mir too, but to be considered a good match, education and magical talent are just as important. For a priest, let alone a pure blood, to be seen with an uneducated, non-gifted street elf is frowned upon, not to say forbidden. Also, from what I've learned, it's mostly young women and girls who get married off in Nortander, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, this isn't the case in Finn and Mir. If the head of a family decides to do so, a young boy or a young man may have the same fate as the one I just escaped by a hair's breadth. But this is a topic you could fill books with. Probably not for now.
But it never came to that?
Almost.
I see. Where is your father now?
Dead as a doornail. He got assassinated some years before I was allowed into the priesthood.
Assassinated? What happened?
He got mistaken for someone else. But it doesn't really matter. Let's not talk about it.
I'm sorry.
Oh, don't be. To be honest, I'm glad he's dead. Otherwise, I would be in bed next to some 200-year-old seer now. You see, Tahar, if there's one thing I took away from all that, it's that there's no greater power in life. Or, if there is, it doesn't care. Murderers live to be 100, children die in the birth beds. Ultimately, the biggest fallacy is that we like to believe that there's someone who gives a damn. We're on our own, and we have to make the best out of whatever life throws at us. I did. And even though not all worked out as I had planned, I'm here. And I'm free.
But the Guardians are real.
I never said that they weren't. But tell me one thing. Why is there cruelty when there's Shanna? Why is there injustice when there's Arian? Why do children die when there's Ellen? There are two explanations. Number one, the Guardians are far less powerful than we think. Number two, they just don't give a damn.
I couldn't agree more.
Happy to hear that. The gods aren't the answer. Yeah, every once in a while there's the token miracle healing. The chances of your prayers being answered are next to none. So you can either sit on your buttocks hoping that some god will take pity, or you can take your fate into your own hands.
That's a cynical way to see things.
No more cynical than to believe that the gods care.
Why?
Well, if you had the power to intervene without risk and you don't, what does that make you? A textbook cynic, and definitely not someone I'd like to have a drink with, let alone worship.
But you still feel lost sometimes, don't you?
Yeah, I do. But I'm working on it. Anyway, we digressed quite a bit, didn't we? Sorry, my fault. Sometimes I just talk too much. I'll see you around, Tahar. And thanks for listening.
Understood. Now would you look at that?
Yeah, do you need something? I'm a tad busy.
What exactly is it that fascinates you about the Shapers?
Oh, Tahar, that's quite a topic. I don't mind sharing, but are you sure you want to go there?
I am. Tell me.
Alright. Well, where do I start? You see, the Shapers have always fascinated me. They're all over Io. These remnants of a once so glorious civilization. Yet for some reason, so many people are almost oblivious to it. On the one hand, of course, that's very sad. On the other hand, it also makes it a lot more exciting. It's like I'm a treasure hunter, only that everyone else fails to see the treasures around us. Tell me, Tahar, when seeing all of this, don't you sometimes feel like you're exploring a childhood dream? The kind of world the poets and the bards always spoke of?
The Shapers are dangerous. Just think of that Steel Guardian we fought to get in, or the Ghost Watchers. Not what I'd call a childhood dream.
Well, yeah, but it doesn't take away from the wonderment, does it? But this childish fascination was only the spark. The more I studied the Shapers, the more enthralled I became with their culture. Did you know that at the pinnacle of their existence, they ruled over all of Io? A global empire with no one to oppose them.
You seem to consider that a good thing.
Oh, good, bad, the world doesn't work like that. Of course, there are writings that hint at the fact that the Shaper Empire wasn't all rainbows and unicorns, but still it was stable. And it persisted for tens of thousands of years. Can you imagine? All this knowledge, all this art, all this wisdom. Nothing in the EO of today can match that. Nothing. It's like comparing a sea full of secrets with a puddle of muddy water.
How do you know all this?
Some of it from writings, some of it's just connecting the dots. I know how many scholars are out there at the universities giving their talks about the inscrutable empire, but it's not nearly as inscrutable as they say. Their problem is they're trying to understand the Shapers by reading books and dusty tablets. That's not how it works. You need to get out there, into the field. And even if it takes years of fruitless digging, eventually you're bound to stumble onto something. Another piece of the mosaic.
Very poetic.
Because it is.
My father always told me the Shaper Empire relied a lot on slaves.
What? No, that's rubbish. The Shapers had castes, yes, and it's probably the lower castes your father was referring to. But to call these slaves is like calling, say, a tanner who was born outside a royal family a slave, just because he'll never be a king. And even the very lowest caste, the Zalanyur, always had enough to eat, a roof over their heads, and could, without paying a single coin, get themselves healed by a cleric if they needed to. So if you think that's unjust, go ahead. Ask an Everlight beggar which era he'd rather live in. He's not a slave, yes, but in some ways he's worse off.
And how exactly did their empire come to be? They must have conquered quite a few nations.
They had the liberty of being the first living civilization on our EO, at least as far as we know. That made it easier to maintain peace and stability. Until the end and the dragons.
And yet, they died out.
Yeah. A great mystery.
Most scholars think it was the dragons.
They do, but I doubt it. You saw what the Shapers were capable of. Even a race as powerful as the dragons couldn't have wiped them out. And you see the shape the city is in, Tahar. There's no traces of fire and destruction. But regardless of what it was, it doesn't change the fact that the way the current races of this world treat the Shapers is nothing short of pathetic. They were greater than we'll ever be. But instead of studying this greatness, we ignore them. And why? Just because it doesn't fit into our religion, our traditions, or whatever reason they can come up with. Because to many, admitting what a marvel the Shapers truly were would mean admitting that our culture is pale in comparison.
Is our world really that bad?
That depends on your expectations. We could do worse, certainly, but if this is as good as we can get, then I have nothing to feel but pity.
We don't know enough about the Shapers yet to say that.
Maybe you don't. I do. In any case, I suppose you found your answer, haven't you? This is what fascinates me about the Shapers. They're a reminder of what we could be, if only we wanted to.
I see. Well, thanks for the explanation, Iskrim. I appreciate it. I'd still like to know more about how you ended up in Nortender.
Bugger and blast. And here I was hoping you'd forgotten. Alright, I'll tell you. But only under one condition.
Yes?
That I get to ask you a personal question too.
Then we have a deal. Go ahead, I'm listening.
Fair enough. I was born in the Windwall Mountains. Sorry, still sorting out my thoughts. It's been a long time since I last told this story to anyone. Alright, one more time. As you can imagine, I was born in Windwall, a child of the rocks.
Come again?
A true dwarf, as some would say. Born in the buried city, not on the outside as the traders and farmers are. My family was quite privileged. Not nobility, but my mother and father led a big smeltery which supplied one of the finest smithies. Moon silver weaponry. Ever heard of it?
I think so. The commanders of the Royal Army use them.
Figures. Well, my childhood was a rather unremarkable one. I had 2 brothers and a sister, and even though I was the oldest child, I was always the most quiet one. I learned quickly how to wield an axe, and I still know how to do it, but I never took pleasure in it. The same goes for my parents' craft. For some reason, Nihalf had given me a talent for metallurgy, but not the desire to use it. Instead, my biggest love was always made with ink. Books.
But I assume your parents didn't approve of that.
Oh no, they didn't mind. I had 3 siblings who could do the job as well as I, so the future of our family was secured. On the contrary, they were quite accepting, which wasn't usual amongst dwarves, especially not those in Windwall.
Are the surface dwarfs different?
Depends. There are some who were very open-minded. For example, the traders who get around a lot. On the other hand, there are some who were as ignorant as the Windwallers.
Dwarves are traditionalists, aren't they?
Oh yeah, they are. They love their brawls, they love their ale, and they love their metal crafting. And they never miss a chance to tell the outside world just how much they do.
Well, to be honest, when I think of dwarven culture, that's exactly what comes to my mind.
See? And that's the problem. There's always diversity in every race. There are soft-hearted orcs, there are elves who don't give a damn about the white tree, and there are humans with... well, you get the point. What I'm trying to say is, many dwarves love living these traditions, but there are some like me who just don't fit in. This is one of the reasons why I appreciate you and this group so much, Tahar. Aenir's tools or not, we're all pariahs, in one way or another.
I guess that's true. So, what happened? Why did you leave Windwall?
I'm getting there, Tahar. When I came of age, I found work in the Windwall Library. It sounds more impressive than it is. Basically just 4 blocky granite walls filled with a dozen bookshelves. Nothing compared to the great libraries of Finn and Mere or even Everlight. That time was also when I deepened my knowledge of the Shapers. I devoured all the books there were, and bought whatever writings the merchants brought in. They smiled at me, talked of me as the strange bird, but I didn't care. The more I read, the more spellbound I became, and the more I dreamed of journeying through Io to solve all those mysteries not yet uncovered.
Are there Shaper ruins in the Windwall Mountains?
Hardly. And those that are there are buried beneath miles and miles of rock. Impossible to access without a huge expedition.
And what kept you from doing just that?
Well, 2 things. First of all, my attachment to my family. Secondly, Gilak.
Gilead?
My, partner.
You had a partner?
Yeah, we met... I'd rather not go into detail too much. Fact is, we lived together for 6 years. He was very dear to me. Let's put it that way.
I understand. But something happened, didn't it?
Yeah. The Blackstone Rebellion. Ever heard of it?
No.
A coup. A small group of rebels tried to overthrow the royal house. It was bound to fail from the beginning. The rebels were anti-traditionalist and wanted to establish a new order, where it's the people who have the power, not the nobility. Gilak was one of these rebels.
Oh.
Yeah. At first, before the coup, they tried to raise awareness by giving underground speeches. A noble endeavour, but not at all thought through. Most dwarves just don't care about politics as long as they can have their mugs of ale. At first, he didn't ask me to participate, but the more sour things went, the more he started pushing me. At one point, we had a fight, when he asked me to steal money from my family to support the movement. It was terrible. Finally, push came to shove, and he told me of the coup. He knew that despite my occupation, I was a remarkable fighter and Earthshaper, which is why he asked me to fight alongside him. You can make a difference, that's what he said. By Nihalf, he was just so naive. He really thought it would be like in the old legends, a group of courageous dwarfs fighting their way to Algrim Castle with me at his side. I just don't... Forgive me. It's strange to talk about it like this.
It's okay. Thank you for trusting me.
Yeah, sure. You can imagine how torn I was. I knew he'd die if the coup took place, but I also knew that I couldn't stop him. When I told him he was mad, he called me a coward, a delusional bookworm, who'd rather spend his whole life dreaming about the past and changing the present. And then he left. The next day, I found him beheaded by a royal guard. They didn't even make it to the castle stairs.
I'm sorry, Iskrim.
It's all right.
What happened then?
I ran. Not only because I'd rather have died than return to that empty house of ours, but also because they would have arrested me too. Our relationship wasn't a secret, and in their eyes, I was as eccentric as Gilad and his friends. And we all know how dangerous eccentrics are, don't we? I left my family a letter, telling them not to come after me, bought a horse, and rode as far as it would take me before collapsing. That was 9 years ago. I haven't returned ever since.
I see. And since then, you've been studying the Shapers?
Yeah. If there really is, as people say, a silver lining to everything, then this would be it. I'm finally doing what I was too afraid to do back in Windwall. I'm living my dream. Though the price I paid for it was high. And you know what, Tahar?
What?
There's a third reason to my fascination with the Shapers I haven't told you about yet. It's Gilak. Stupid as it may sound, there's a part of me who wants to prove him wrong. To show him that the past has value. That it can guide us towards a better world.
I see. Well, thank you for sharing this, Iskrim. I appreciate it.
Yeah. It felt good to talk about it. I didn't expect that. But you're not off the hook yet. The question, remember?
Right. Shoot.
Your past is even more unusual than mine. Growing up with a man like Isamu Tahar as your father? Without a mother? And then the whole thing with the Mage Rebellion? I know you've been through a lot. Now, I was wondering, if you could trade that past you've had for a different one, would you do it?
What kind of a past could I choose? Anything?
Anything.
I wouldn't.
That surprises me, to be honest. But I think I understand. Either way, pleasure speaking with you. Hope this wasn't too grim for you, but then again, you asked for it. Give me some time now, will you?
Sure. Take care, Iskrim. Interesting.
Tahar, finally! Do you have the stone?
I do. What now? How do we connect it to the Nexus?
Well, I've done a little research on that. It should be pretty straightforward. Give me the stone for a second, please.
Sure.
Thanks. Now, let's see. Whoa!
This is amazing.
What happened? Was that the stone?
Yeah. It seems like our plan worked. The stones are the power sources of the Nexus.
Not sources, Tahar. They're simply the catalysts. As I said, the energy, all this magic, it comes from someplace else.
Well, I definitely know why the Shapers were so powerful now. If they were able to harness that, I wouldn't want to be their enemy.
Pain.
Pardon?
Rekindling this place. I can feel their thoughts now. At least, some of them.
You mean the Shaper's thoughts?
Those who connected themselves to this place. The ones who had the power of telepathy. They left an echo, and whatever wiped out the Shapers, it caused pain. Horrible pain.
I see.
Well, fascinating or not, we need to connect our minds to the Nexus to find the source of the bloodburn, right? Can we do that now?
No, it's not strong enough yet.
Well, we have the second stone already. Let's insert it. Okay, I'm ready. Sure this place isn't gonna blow up once we insert the second stone, Iskrim?
What? No, I don't think that's likely.
All right, here we go.
Blasted, blistering blazes. I don't know what to say. This is amazing.
But it seems like it worked. We've restored the Nexus to full power. How are you feeling, Iana?
Overwhelmed. But it's bearable.
What now, though? Is it strong enough to perform this joining ritual?
It should be. And you, Tahar, should be the one to do it. You need to connect your mind to the Nexus. That way, you might be able to sense who or whatever is sending out the song. What do you say? Are you ready?
I think so.
Good. Then step into the forge.
Just like that?
Yeah. If I'm right, the rest will happen by itself.
And what now?
Tahar!
I weep.
Is it over?
Yes, I think so. By the Guardians, that was... I don't know what just happened.
Describe.
There were... voices, screams, thoughts, images.
How do you feel now? I mean, has anything changed?
I think so. Yes. I feel... I don't know. Clearer. As if something in my mind opened up.
Then it worked! Niehaus hammer, we did it! You joined yourself with the Nexus!
So... I am telepathic now?
You're not a dreamweaver. I'd feel it if that were the case. But you seem to be connected to this place now.
I don't think you are, but you're connected to this place now. And therefore to the Shaper memories. As to what that ultimately means for you, we'll find out.
Does that mean we can finally locate the cause of the song?
You tell me. Think of the song, Tahar. Close your eyes. What do you feel? What do you hear? What do you see?
I'll try.
A failure. That's what you are.
No. That's impossible.
What is it?
My father. I heard his voice.
Your father? So you think he's behind this?
I also heard the voice of a woman. She whispered something.
A woman? Now this is, interesting. But I still don't understand. Do you really think your father is involved in the blood burn?
I don't think so. There's more to it. But yes, my father is involved in this somehow.
This is helpful, but it still does not tell us where to start searching. Think hard, Tahar. Is there anything else?
Yes, there were sounds. Drips, crickets, flies. But the eye. My father's laboratory.
The Eye? You mean the marshlands?
Yes. My father had a laboratory there, in the old abandoned manor of House Waite. Nobody was allowed to follow him there, not even Rohan or I.
Well, sounds like we have a lead. The Bloodborne and the Song of the White are somehow connected to your father in his laboratory.
So it seems. Yes.
You don't sound so happy. We finally have a solid lead. This is cause for celebration, isn't it?
I know. I'm just dizzy. I'll send a messenger to inform Lacane as soon as possible. He'll want to be there. Let's get prepared.
Iskrim's plan worked. By joining your mind to the collective subconscious of the Shapers, you were able to locate the origin of the Song of the White, the marshlands, also known as the Eye, where your father had a secret laboratory. It seems that Rondar Lekane was right. One way or another, your family is connected to the Bloodburn. Time to unravel the mystery.
Tahar, there you are.
Bertrand?
That's my name. The Harbinger sent me to welcome you.
Hold on there. What? How is this possible? You're with the Purity now? I thought you were dead.
I was, and if you want, I will tell you all about this later. But first we need to discuss the reason you're here. There's good news and there's bad news. Let me make this short. Sentenza, General Noria, caught wind of our endeavor. He knows we are headed for the Eye.
That's bad. What's the good news?
He wasn't sure of it, so he only came with a small division of soldiers. Still, the fortress is heavily guarded, so we will need more troops to storm it.
Damn it. We left our forces in Mullandir.
I know. There was no way you could have known this would turn into a full-fledged battle. But there's no time to turn back now, and we have to come up with a plan. The Harbinger himself will join you at the fortress, together with some Lightbringers.
Lightbringers? So the Purity has actual soldiers now?
That isn't news, is it? They always had the Bane.
What? No, the Bane doesn't belong to the Purity. They believe they do, but the Harbinger has clearly renounced any affiliation with them.
You really believe that? For the Harbinger's right hand, you definitely don't know a lot.
If that's what you want to believe, go ahead. Regarding your question, Tahar, a lot has happened since your escape from Greykeep. More and more people have started to see the light, and it is not just townsfolk and farmers anymore, but also soldiers. They all wish to fight for Aeonir's return, and we guide them.
Sounds like a religious militia. To be honest, I don't like this. Northander doesn't need more armed factions.
Well, what is that army of yours if not a militia? This country is torn, Tahar. It's only natural for people to take up arms and defend their own rights. You of all people should know that.
And how will he do that? If Sentenza has scouts all over the marshlands, he'll see the Purity's army coming from miles away.
That's where you come in. There's a godstone on the mountain of the old castle where your father's laboratory was, and where Sentenza has made his stand. If you kindle it for us, the Harbinger can use his rune to teleport himself and his armies right there.
Huh. That could work.
It will. Aeonir is guiding us, Tahar. Don't ever forget that. I'll wait here to make sure Sentenza's reinforcements don't take us by surprise if they get here before all this is done with.
I still don't understand how Sentenza got wind of this.
I don't know. He is the spy master after all, so I guess it's just one of his many ears who told him.
Can you tell me anything about the marsh?
Well, I take it you're not interested in the folk tales about House Waite's descent into madness, so... No, not really. The only thing you should watch out for are undead. There's quite a lot of them around.
Of course. The Bloodburn.
What do you mean?
The Bloodburn. I don't know how to explain it, but corpses can be affected too. It awakes them.
Oh, that's eerie. Well, but I guess it explains a lot. The swamp has taken hundreds of lives over the years, and if that castle is where the Bloodburn originates from, then, well, you understand.
Bertrand, there's something I'd like to know. What do you make of all this? Do you really think my father is responsible for the Bloodburn?
Well, must be connected to it somehow. Aeonir himself told the Harbinger this, didn't he? As to why and how, I guess we'll find out.
Once we've secured the Godstone, what then?
The Harbinger will know, but I assume we will storm the place. Once we're on the island, it should be an easy fight.
Shouldn't we try to reason with Sentenza first?
No, I don't think that's wise. Sentenza hates you, and he hates the Purity too. He has been trying to hunt you down since you escaped the keep. We cannot take that risk.
All right. I'll see what I can do.
You will. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about? I guess you have a lot of questions.
I do. Bertrand, what happened? How come you're with the Purity now? I thought...
That Nortander killed me? Yes, they were going to. But then the Purity offered me a chance, and I took it. I accepted my sin, I repented, and I was born again.
What sins? Trying to save those Leonon villagers from slaughter?
It's not about that.
What is it about then? You're a good man, Bertrand.
No, Tahar. I wasn't. Look, throughout my life, I had always felt as if something was missing. As if deep down inside, there was this dark black hole in my soul. No matter what I tried, I couldn't fill it. Sounds dramatic, I know, but it's the truth. Don't you know that feeling, Tahar? That no matter what you do, you're lost, alone?
Not really.
Then I guess I should envy you. I've never told you about that, but at one point after the war, after all this shit they made us do, I thought about quitting. More than once. But for some reason, I couldn't. Maybe it was fear, yes. Maybe it was that I still hadn't given up hope yet. That there is an answer after all, and that I'd find it if I only kept looking. Well, I did. I found it.
Aenir.
Yes, the Purity. They showed me. I don't know how else to say it, but I've never been happier. And once Aenir returns, once all the unbelievers finally see the light too, he will turn this broken world into a better one.
Well said. Did the Purity teach you that line, or did you come up with it yourself?
Sounds just like that Tahar I remember. But I'm not upset. I know why you'd say that. I just hope that one day you'll see what I saw.
I better get going now.
Of course. May the light guide you, my friend.
More fighting. Does this never end?
Prepare yourselves.
All right, here goes nothing.
Whatever's necessary.
Fair enough. Let's do this.
Let's see. Deserted.
The hut is still in good shape, though. Maybe the fishermen just left because of the storm?
Sounds like a plan. You got it.
All right.
Control. Need control.
Got it.
blasted armor.
Get ready!
You'll regret this.
Here we go.
Sure.
Look at that. More Nortander folks. No, I still haven't seen that man.
What are you talking about?
Oh, so you're not with the Royal Army. Thank the Guardians. I was getting sick of their questioning. They're looking for someone, a traitor, apparently. Which leads me to the question, who are you if you're not with them?
I'm here to explore that castle.
Explore? Well, good luck with that.
And who are you?
Me? Just a lost soul on the search for meaning. Just as my men.
And I guess all those weapons help with that search.
Well, what did you think they're for? Jokes aside, we're mercenaries. But with all that shit that's been going on, we're not so keen to get ourselves involved in another war anymore, no matter the pay. So we just went for a long hike into the blue, and this lovely place is where we ended up. It may look hostile, but the wilderness has plenty of fish to catch and plants to eat, so it's actually not that bad.
What's the story behind that castle? The Eye?
You don't know?
Well, I've heard the rumors. House Wait, their descent into madness.
And that's about it. Some 100 years ago, Parzival Waite, the head of the family who once lived in that lovely ruin on the island, contracted some disease and went completely and utterly bonkers.
How?
Well, he started seeing things, had those dreams of a white city, and said that something is coming to devour the world and that he has to stop it. At first, his wench, they didn't have heirs yet, and rumor had it she was barren, tried to help him, but eventually she lost her mind too. They started putting up crosses everywhere to keep that something from coming, starved themselves, and eventually started sacrificing their servants to the renegade gods to ask them for help. The story got out, and the villagers, at that time there were more, stormed the castle and hanged both him and his wife. End of story.
There is something strange about these swamps, though. As if the fabric between the worlds is thinner somehow. Weaker.
If you say so, lady.
So there's really no one living in the marsh anymore?
Hardly. There's a small village to the east, Batham or something like that. But I wouldn't advise you to go there. At least not as long as this storm's going on. All that bloody rain has turned the roads into damn death traps.
How so?
You're joking, right? You're in a damn swamp here, friend. One false step and you'll end up as a mummified corpse on the bottom of these ponds.
If you're sellswords, can we hire you?
What for?
We want to storm the fortress.
Do you? That's ambitious. I better not ask for the reason, right?
No.
All right. We'll help you if the pay is right.
How's this?
Let me see. Yes, that's fair. Well then, let's get started, shall we? Break is over, boys. Get moving. At your command.
Interesting.
Sure.
The bridge is broken. Must have been the storm. Now would you look at that?
That way? Fair enough. Let's do this.
You won't stand a chance. I understand.
This way, right? That's the way? Alright, why not?
I'll be swift.
Sure. Helen's reigns. Hard to believe there was a time when people actually lived here.
They still do, in the east. And while the environment may be hostile, I do not think the villagers have many troubles with raiders. Understood.
Interesting. I don't think we should go there. The storm's completely soaked the ground. It would be too dangerous. This is it. Huh. Strange that Sentenza hasn't reacted by now. He must have heard the fighting.
Maybe the storm drowned the noise? It's possible.
But not likely.
So much blood. I'll do what's required. It will be bloody.
All right, here goes nothing.
Let's see.
As you want. Of course.
blocked.
Even if it wasn't, shouldn't we get Lacane and his troops in first?
Fair enough. Let's do this.
That's the godstone Bertrand was talking about. Let's light it.